What's up and welcome to Idle Insights, a show where each week I, Treavor Bettis, talk to interesting people about idle champions and Dungeons and Dragons. With me this week is returning guest Anna Prosser. Hello!
Hello.
And their tiny, adorable dog.
Just two redheads having a good time.
That's fantastic.
She has a bed on my desk, so she was like, "Hello, excuse me, my time." So yeah, now she's hanging out.
The camera is
desk.
on. I must be raised
Yes.
up.
Yes.
God, I wish my cat would just chill on my desk. She'll chill on my lap for 30 seconds, then goes, "There's cords to eat."
Yeah, I love my cat. Although if it's Nizki's bed, if it's the dog's bed, then she's like, "Oh, this is cool." Like she'll stay there, but she won't stay in my lap. And if she's on my desk, she'll try to eat all the cords.
Cats be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Anna, if there's people out in the chat right now that, well, actually, I should say for you, chat, this is a recorded episode. We are not live right now, so if you're gonna be here for the giveaway later, you gotta keep an eye out for the chat. But if there's people in chat who don't know who are you for those fine folks?
I am a human person who lives in Portland, Oregon, and I like to play Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, I like to do that in front of people because I believe it is a very unique and special kind of massively multiplayer storytelling that I don't think you can find anywhere else.
I love that.
Thank you. My background as far as like here on the internet is in esports. I came up in StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 2 as an interviewer and a team manager for a while for Evil Geniuses, and a media producer and a host and presenter. So kind of anything that has to do with telling the story of video games or geekdom, that's where you'll find me on the internet. Before that, my background was I actually studied speech communication and international studies. So I geek the heck out about words and how people share them with each other.
Heck yeah.
And now, as far as D&D, you may know my character Evelyn, who is a paladin. She is a sunny little cherub of light and lathander, and she is not my first character, but maybe my most well-known. She was on Dice Camera Action, which was an official Dungeons and Dragons D&D show. Now she plays on Acquisitions Incorporated, which, as far as anyone knows, as far as anyone has been able to tell me, is the longest running Dungeons and Dragons live play show that exists.
Yeah.
So that I feel very honored to be part of that.
I told Jerry Holgans recently, like, this was the first D&D anything I listened to. And it's so cool to see the way it's evolved. But before we get to Evelyn and Ack Inc. and all that stuff, I want to give the fun icebreaker question. Who was your first D&D character?
In the grand tradition of new D&D players everywhere, it was a dead parents character.
Yes. Tradition.
Yes, we must all have dead parents. In fact, Evelyn has dead parents. We all have dead parents. But her name was December. She was an assassin, so an assassin rogue, and she had this backstory of like having been taken in as a baby by like a cult of assassins. And the reason she was called December is they weren't even given names. They were just called by the month in which they were brought in. So everyone called her December. So that's the only name she had to give. So it was a lot of like, she'd never had friends. She'd never had family. And that's why she had motivation to like stay in this party. And they were the only people that had ever treated her like a friend instead of a tool, basically. And she was on Misclick's D&D Pirate Edition, which was our first Misclick show, which was, again, in that early echelon. I'll put it up there in that early echelon of D&D shows. And we did like a whole seafaring campaign, which I thought was totally normal at the time, but it was so fun. And I don't know if I've ever completely been able to replicate how fun it was to sail this ship around and just wreak havoc.
I also, now that you say that, my first D&D character was also on a seafaring adventure as well.
Really?
So yeah,
that's where we begin.
Yeah, it's
sea,
you got to sail into adventure. I did forget that you're one of the few people I know that like they have a recorded history of their first time playing D&D.
Yes.
I'm so jealous of that.
It's wild. I watched it on my Twitch channel and did like commentary over it a while back.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it was so funny because I was sure, I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be like, I was such a noob.
Yeah.
There's so many things I'm gonna cringe at or whatever. And there were multiple times where something would happen in the game, and then in unison with myself, I would say the same thing on my Twitch channel. And I was like,
Yes.
I guess not much has changed, actually.
I love like first time player games, like in person and also recorded, like the high rollers played with the Baldur's Gate 3 cast recently, and for a lot of them that was their first time, and
Oh, that's
I
so
just
cool.
I loved watching it so much for them just be like, oh wait, I get it. Like that's my favorite moment, watching people
Yeah.
play for the first time. So good.
I had the pleasure actually of I had some friends over, 3 friends who had never played D&D before, recently at a home game, and we do like a D&D brunch when we did that. So I was like, yeah, you'll come over for, 2 or 3 hours at least. We'll play a one shot. And they ended up staying, I think they came at 11 and left at like 11. Like we
Oh
literally ate
dang.
food and played D&D for an entire 12 hours, and it was the perfect day.
That sounds soul healing. Like
It
brunch and
was.
D&D alone. Oh my god.
It was perfect. It was everything I've ever wanted.
See now, I'm gonna tell my wife this later. She's gonna go, so when are we doing this? I'm planning out the menu now.
You can license our Bruncheons and Dragons trademark. Bruncheons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. I love that. That needs to be a thing. Well, Anna, we're like you brought up Evelyn before, and of course we are here to talk about Evelyn Marthane, one of the most awesome paladins around, and namely because you got a new Evelyn got a new skin for this Acquisitions Incorporated season, the Venture Casual skin, which is again. That was I wish I had come up with that name. I was a little mad when I saw it. I'm like, it's a good name.
Love it.
But if we have new players coming into the game all the time, if people don't know who Evelyn is, who is Evelyn?
She is a paladin of Lathander, which means that she's all about Lathander is the god of the dawn, so the morning, the new light, rebirth, beginning, springtime, babies, all that kind of stuff. And Evelyn is a fun fact about Evelyn is that her alignment is neutral good. So most paladins are lawful good, which means they strictly follow a code, and that's the one most important thing to them. And then they do things for the good, the greater good. Evelyn does things for the greater good. But the way I interpret neutral good, chaotic good being like, I do whatever I think is good at the moment. Neutral good, I kind of interpret as I do whatever it seems is best for this particular situation. So there's more flexibility. It's not just like, what about I think, but it's about what everyone around me needs at the moment. So it's really fun because it makes her a little bit more flexible. So her theology is really fun to play. Because at first I was like, okay, she's a paladin. Her job is to like smite people basically in the party, and she carries this giant battle axe. She has an armory of weapons. She's a very violent character actually. But
always smiling through it.
Yeah. And so I was like, how do I reconcile that? And so for Evelyn, the way she sees it is like no one ever truly dies because her god is rebirth. So it's about like, right now the life you're living is not working out for everyone, so I'm going to end this life and send you into a new dawn. You get to try again, do something else than this.
Okay.
So that's been really fun. She's also like, she doesn't look like me. She's 5 feet tall, very short curly blonde hair, kind of a cherubic face, and also just like super built. Like think of like one of those professional cheerleaders that's a flyer that's like tiny and just buff. And she also has dead parents, and
it's a running bullet point through this episode.
Dead parents. And as I've played her now for I think almost a decade. So the things I've discovered about her, it really boils down to that she's always been looking for love and also just proof that she is lovable, I think. And so she finds that in her relationship with her god, but then also, of course, she's always hoping to find that in people as well.
When you're talking about the alignment and her kind of going situation to situation, I had never really noticed that, but as soon as you said that, like it clicked with me because there's so many times like I would say Evelyn is the example of the joke. Like, all right, if I'm going to talk about this, everyone's got to get cool about a lot of stuff real quick, and Evelyn will get real cool about that stuff.
Yes, yes. I mean, also her flaw is that she is fatally optimistic. So it was, you know, the book has the flaw, you know, you can choose from the different flaws, and the flaw is, in fact, the world does revolve around me. So originally that was her flaw, but I was like, it's not that she's like, everything is about me. It's that she thinks everything is going to go right. So exactly what you said, if somebody's like, the world works this way, she was like, maybe it does. Cool. You know, and then she's just down. Or someone's like, yeah, I think that, you know, this stone giant is going to kill us. She's like, maybe it's going to be our friend, actually. I think that it's going to work out. So that's been really, really fun to play too, because a lot of times it does work out for her, or it doesn't. And I get to just be that person in the party that's just instigating stuff all the time.
Oh, God. Yeah, that is a good way to have a paladin, honestly. It's just like, yeah, no, they are still very much a paladin, but they will instigate.
Yeah. I think paladin is a really underplayed class. Like I don't meet a lot of people who play a lot of paladins. In fact, I think the only other paladin I've ever played with on a show might be Brennan Lee Mulligan's like construct paladin. That was really fun. But yeah, I think it's an underplayed class. I think it's an underappreciated class. And I think people often think it has to be like a stick in the mud, no fun person. So
yeah, well, you actually said back there, but like the lawful part of it is like that is the oath that you've taken. You're going by those laws, and I do think that there are some people who still see lawful as like you follow the laws of the land. It's like, no, screw those. Yeah, it's what you believe in. It's
the code. Yeah.
I mean, that's why if I ever want to start a fight in a nerd group, I just drop in and go, the Punisher is lawful evil, and I just back up. And I just let the fight happen.
Yes, very good. I love having conversations about what alignment people think they are too. Because according to Chris Perkins, which I agree with, he's like, most people are lawful good. And I'm like, I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense. But people love to argue that they're chaotic good or that they're like true neutral or whatever. It's really an interesting, revealing party conversation.
I want to know what Chris Perkins thinks his alignment is.
I think he's told me it's lawful good because he's like really in the scale of like the world and actual good and evil. Like, you know, the human scale dips only this far into evil. Like most people are, so I think he told me that he is lawful good, but you know, that's up for interpretation.
I see. I think the modifier I do for the follow-up question is like, okay, what's your alignment as a DM?
Now that is definitely lawful evil, I would say. 100%. Because he is following those rules and manipulating them to the best of his ability to traumatize you emotionally.
Oh man, last week Jasmine called Jeremy Crawford an emotional terrorist, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head.
Dude, it is so fun playing with both of them as a DM, because when we were filming the series 2 for Acquisitions Incorporated, which if people don't know is the web series that's being released right now, we filmed 2 episodes a day, and we would have the mornings with Chris and the evenings with Jeremy. And so we got both DMs every single day, and watching them play side by side is so
literally split custody of you.
Our 2 dads. Yes. We had to go between their houses.
It's 2 different studios that can't be near each other.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that I find so interesting is Chris Perkins is the lead narrative designer for Dungeons and Dragons, meaning he's in charge of the story, and Jeremy's the lead rules designer, meaning he's in charge of the mechanics. But they work very closely together, obviously. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that when they DM, especially when they DM next to each other, they almost DM the opposite. Like Chris plays, he almost is more interested in like the mechanics and like that kind of stuff, the specific monsters and stuff. Jeremy is almost more interested in the story. Like I get away with a lot more rule of cool stuff with Jeremy than I do with Chris.
That's so funny because like he's the one that everyone always tweets at for those rules.
Yeah.
I mean that doesn't make sense. It's like I work all day in this part of the medium. I'm going to, like, you know, embrace this part of it because it's not what I always get to do. That makes sense.
Jeremy is the one that let me treat an entire like at one point we were in a room that was like we had broken a bunch of blood vials and there was like blood all over the floor, and I was like, is blood not a corpse? And Jeremy was like, what do you mean? And then he let me do ceremony on the floor covered in blood to prevent it from becoming undead, which prevented all his monsters from coming to life, so we just skipped the encounter.
I remember this because I paused it, brought my wife in the room, like, you gotta see this BS. This is incredible. This is role-playing to the highest degree.
I think one of my favorite Ack Inc. traditions is blank not blank. It's my favorite. Yes.
Yeah, whenever my players will do that, I'll be like, who do you think you are, Patrick Rothfuss?
He taught us all well. He
so
did.
Good. So
we
good.
Follow his example.
So winding back a little bit, how did Evelyn come to be in Acquisitions Incorporated stuff?
So when the C Team was going on, which was the spin-off show from the Acquisitions Incorporated, which was they did a weekly show as opposed to the shows that happened at the live events. Dice Camera Action was also going on, and because Jerry and Chris would talk, sometimes our timelines would interweave. So we would have guests like Tristan came on and was Walnut on Dice Camera Action. And I think Evelyn guested on C Team. She did, I don't know. Anyway, we had a bunch of guest appearances. And at that time, Alyssa Grant was producing the C Team and I was producing Dice Camera Action. And we got together and we were like, what if? Biggest crossover of all time.
Yeah.
Shared cinematic universe. So we kind of did this like massive, what did we call it? Waffles Inc. We called it Waffles Inc. because Dice Camera Action was called the Waffle Crew, which was my fault, by the way. It's a horrible name, and I did it. And I
caught the eye roll when you said it.
Yes. It was the first episode, and I was like, is that our name? Are we the Waffle Crew? And everyone was like, no. And then everyone started calling us the Waffle Crew from then on. Anyways, but so Alyssa and I were like, let's do a big crossover event. So we did this really fun, like 3-day long, basically D&D summer camp where we... in the Penny Arcade studio, kind of like we filmed Acquisitions Incorporated, we split the groups up in a bunch of different fours and had Jerry and Chris DMing them. And then we did a final like boss game where everybody, all the characters, 8 players were in it and 2 DMs, they DM'd together. So we kind of like permanently interwove our stories there. And then I think Omen was actually a guest on Dice Camera Action as well. And Evelyn always looking for some connection. Omen paid her any kind of attention, and she was like, he's a cleric, he's a pious, successful person. This is the kind of person I should be interested in. So she was like, let's be pen pals, let's flirt, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so there was a long running Evelyn being pen pals with Omen thing after that as well. So when Dice Camera Action was unfortunately canceled, I had a really hard time with it because I'd been playing this character at that point for like, I mean, what was it, 5 years on
something like that?
Dice Camera Action, and I had been playing her before that even, and I just didn't. I had so many plans for her that suddenly it felt like she died. Like it was I was like having a really hard time with it. So I called Alyssa and I was like, "Look, if there's ever any place for Evelyn on any Ack Inc. stuff, because she's in your universe, please let me bring her and play her because I'm just not done with her." So they brought me on just as a guest for Acquisitions Incorporated, and then every time I was just like, please, anytime you want me back, I will be here. I will be here with bells on, please. And so I think that continued for a long time. I was a guest on the C Team for a while. I was a guest on Ack Inc. a couple times. And then just this time when I was there filming the series, I was like, I just hope you guys keep inviting me back for stuff. I really want to keep doing this. And Ryan was like, I think you should know you're part of the core cast now. Like this is a thing. And I was like, are you sure? I'm so traumatized. I'm like, don't take
no, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, so she I begged my way on, and they were in a shared universe, and that's how it worked.
And I'm happy as hell that you did, because like I know that like fans had a similar thing, because like I watched Dice Gamer Action while it was going and everything like that, and so like the first time that I heard it's like, oh, Evelyn and Strix are gonna be in this live game, I was like, I'm there live for it. Let's freaking go. And so that was, it was cool to get to see the character. Like it was like, you know, in the MCU, like the hero will get like their trilogy, but they don't really get their own solo movies again after that. But you see them in the other ones. That's how it started to feel. But now it's like, oh no, we're back. It's main cast. Let's go.
Yeah, it does feel like that. The shared, what did we call it? The CPU, the Chris Perkins universe, I think is what we started calling it.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, and yeah, now you're doing, I mean, you've been on almost every live game for a while now.
I know, I feel really lucky and thankful.
And they've been fantastic stories. And yeah, I mean, the Blood Room, just so good. So good.
That is one of my favorite D&D moments for sure.
I was actually oh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't think it was the same episode. I think it was a few before, because it was with Mike. But I think one of my, this is a tangent. You invited tangents. So
well, see, I was literally about to ask you, what are some of your favorite moments from the live game? So you're ahead of me. You're good.
Oh, great. My interview senses. Sorry, I have allergies. This is why my eye is leaking. So this is why I keep
it's all good.
rubbing at my eye.
It's all good.
Mike is such an amazing D&D player who plays Jim Darkmagic, who hasn't been around much in the live games until Series 2, which I was delighted, because I think he's one of the most creative and smart D&D players. I think he and Holly Conrad both do this, like this creative application of spells that just blow my mind. But there was this one part where we had Jim Darkmagic with the party, and then we had a clone or other dimensional Jim Darkmagic who was, I believe, in Avernus, and we were trying to defeat him, and Jim started romancing him kind of, and we're like, here goes Jim, like trying to make out with himself, basically. Like, you know, I guess we all get it. Like, you know, he likes himself, cool. And we're just kind of like, okay, this is a funny bit that he's trying to like get with himself, basically. And then he convinces his other self to kiss him, but he had this item in his mouth. I can't even remember what it was, but he had hidden this item in his mouth that he then like pushed into the other Jim Darkmagic's mouth, and then could use a command to somehow make this item turn into a tower. So he basically like put a tower in his head and then was like, boom. So it was just, and that was purely a D&D rule thing.
It was a seed. It was like the tree. Yeah. Because I remember Jeremy describing it and going, oh my God.
And it was just genius. And the fact that he knew how to deliver it, so we didn't realize what was happening until the very last second. It was beautiful. And it was a similar thing that Holly did with the, was it like a beholder? It was some sort of giant creature that was attacking us, and she did a similar thing where she like went as a gaseous cloud inside it.
Oh, this sounds
and like exploded it from the inside. I guess I like when people explode things from the inside. I don't know, but it just was a very genius application of rules either way.
Thanos wouldn't have stood a chance against Evelyn. The plan would have been formed. I love it.
Meanwhile, I'm like, maybe I can convince it not to. That's my plan.
Or convince it long enough for the actual plan to take place.
Right. Yes.
So, now that you've been doing the live shows for a bit, though, you're now doing these recorded games. Like, do you find that there is a difference between these pre-recorded ones and doing streaming or live shows or anything like that?
Yes. There's a difference between like a home game where nobody's watching and a recorded game where you know people will be watching, and a live game where people are watching. I think there's a huge difference between all of those. So I don't think that there was ever a point where it was like, I don't feel like there's an audience, because you can feel the audience, you know them well enough that you know what they're going to be like super into and stuff. And we kind of are the audience at this point too. So when we're recording, a lot of times we lose it about something being funny because we know the audience is also going to be losing it. But it did make it feel a little bit more intimate because you kind of block out the whole world. So your imagination and this place becomes the only place you are. I think during the live game at certain points, most of us kind of go into a fugue state and we don't even realize that we're on stage anymore. And we can just hear the audience and it becomes part of like the game. But I do think there are certain points during the game where I'll be like, oh, I'm on a show. Am I being funny? Have I done enough? And I think recording sometimes mitigates that a little bit because it feels more like we're just at the table playing a game, having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And because we were there all week and all day each day,
Mm-hmm.
and we got to hang out beforehand and after to kind of like discuss what had happened and warm up together a little bit, I think that the games got higher and higher quality. Like Jasmine and I have known each other for a really long time, but we've never really spent much time together other than like getting ready right before Ack Inc., like putting our makeup on kind of thing. So getting to really like chit chat about our characters and how they felt about things, and even just kind of like have a morning where we got to have coffee and talk a little bit, brought out some really cool stuff between Certainty and Evelyn. So it definitely did make me long for more of that, for more of like the cast being a group that gets to interact more beyond just like the hour before Acquisitions Incorporated. Also, I'm always the one, this is my I don't know, I'm the dork that after every Ack Inc. game, I'm always like, so guys, are we going out for drinks? Are we going out for karaoke? Are we gonna keep hanging out? Like every time I'm that person. And like once in a while, I would say 1 in 5 times, people will be like, yeah, let's go out. Most of the time people are like, oh, sorry, I can't, or they've already disappeared. Or this last time I convinced everyone to go out, and then I went to the place we were going to go out to, and everyone was like, I got in my car and I couldn't do it, I'm going to go home. So I was the only person there.
Oh no.
That's me. That's the nerd. But yeah, so this is a very long-winded way of answering your question. That is, there's something really precious about that kind of contained D&D summer camp energy. Nothing, it's not the same as like being on stage and getting the laughs and the hoots and all of that kind of stuff, but it is a really cool other kind of energy that I really enjoy.
It's wild because like I know what you're talking about there. Like I haven't experienced that, but it's like all the times I see the behind the scenes stuff of like Dimension 20, because like they do those like, you know, short recording sessions or weeks and stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I want to hang out in like the room when they take a break just to hear like what kind of conversations happen there and whatnot. And like it does feel more like I know how that is at a home game. Like I know when we take a break and we go outside, we hang out for a little bit and whatnot. But I think in those situations, because it's also like you're here to do this, you're here to record this. It's not just hang around with your friends and everything. There is more conversation about it of like, oh, what's your character doing here and stuff like that. That
and
is
even like on an interpersonal level, like I just said I'm the dork, right? So it's like everyone who's playing, I'm constantly feeling like, wow, they're so cool. Like, I don't want to annoy them by trying to like hang out with them or like not be cool enough to hang out with them and stuff. So I think genuinely most of us in this space feel that way. Like we're all in this space because we were little nerd gamers that like.
And I'm gonna be honest. I've been sitting here all day, like, am I cool enough to talk to Anna Prosser again? like I know exactly what you're talking about, but like, because that like from this side, it shocks me to hear that because I'm just like, no, like that's absolutely awesome that you invite people to go out and do that. That's so cool. That doesn't make you a nerd at all.
Well, and I guess it was healing for that little part of my soul because especially Austin, Xavier Woods, Jasmine and I kind of became this like trio because all of us were, I mean, Jasmine lives in Seattle, but we were kind of just like, we have nothing else to do but record. So we afterwards, like one day we decided we were all going to go get piercings. Like we were like high schoolers and we went and got piercings together. And we had all these like really deep talks and stuff like that. So and we were able to have talks about like, I have felt like you are too cool for me. Like is, you know, and
that's really good though.
It's so really, really good. Very healing and very like, you know, these are people that I hang out with frequently for work. But before that, if I was like, oh, I should text them about this, I would be like, oh, that'd be too forward. Or like, I don't know, like if I'd be annoying or whatever. And now it's like, hey, I saw this picture of Lenny Kravitz and it looks like you, Austin. Ha ha ha. And he's like, yes, you know, like that.
No, I know exactly what that was like the first like thing that I really got to do with this was Champions of Lore for this show, and that was with B. Dave Walters and Aaron M. Evans, and that was an absolute no one knows how am I on this with these people, and I'd be so nervous to just like Twitter DM them about the topic we were talking about that week, and now like B. Dave and I just send dumb Star Wars memes to each other. Like,
yes, it's healing. It's so good.
It is. Oh geez. Well, okay, so now this group, you all are in Greyhawk. And this is a question that I've had since the beginning of it. How's Evelyn feeling about this Paylor dude?
So one thing that I like to explain about Evelyn is like, especially with Inc., she has constantly been like, here I am. I don't know how I got here. Guess I'll just play along. And that's how I have to play her, because it makes no sense how or when she is there.
Well, I was gonna ask him, like, do we know if this is a clone or not? Like, as Chris told you, who's a clone and who's not yet.
This is one of my favorite questions, because I think it has to be a clone, but Jeremy has implied to me that it is not. I don't know how that's possible, like because I don't know how she got there. Like, I guess you could kind of hand wave it and be like, Evelyn is a paladin of Waterdeep and Inc. is in Waterdeep, and she kind of came over and like never left one day, I guess. But we've seen clones, like Evelyn's seen clones of herself before, I think.
You I think you have fought a clone Evelyn at least twice.
Yeah.
There was one in a DCA live show, and then one for Penny Arcade. Yeah.
Yes. And I've thought a lot about this. I have a whole like side, I don't know, is it fan fiction if it's your own character? I don't know.
Oh my, that's an existential question I'm not ready for.
I have a prepared arc that I have considered, where if Evelyn finds out she's a clone, I think it'd be really interesting, because I still play Dice Camera Action. I play with those people off camera. So there is an Evelyn that has continued in that timeline, who is still level 15 at this point, whereas Inc. Evelyn is now level 3, has changed her oath, has, blah, blah, blah. So I was just telling Kate Welch this, actually. I was like, if Evelyn ever finds out she's a clone, I think she obviously has this existential crisis of like, what even is my soul? The family that I long for that I didn't have, I never even had a chance of having in the first place. What is all this? And I think eventually she comes to value like found family above anything else. I think it makes her a lot stronger and a lot more, like, gives her a lot more agency. And I think she tries to become a bee stinger. I think she tries to get adopted. So I think that in my mind, when I think of clone Evelyn, I'm like Evelyn Bee Stinger versus Evelyn Marthane. I think that they could be two separate people. So
that's pretty cool. And I mean, like, ties it even more into the Inc. stuff and everything like that. Like, this is Inc. Evelyn. That's so cool.
I don't know. I don't know which I would rather it be, because if it's Evelyn Marthane, then that also means like still fun connections to like Paulton and all of that, like, and that could be a really fun, like, Paulton shows up and the Omen Paulton sparks happen again, like, that's always really fun. Oh my god. That's happened one time, I think, when Omen came and guested on Dice Camera Action, and that's always really fun. So I don't know which one I hope it is, but anyway, as far as Greyhawk, generally Evelyn's like, IDK, whatever, like, the light of Lathander shines wherever I am. I'll just I'll deal with whatever's right in front of me and not think too hard about anything else. But I don't know, maybe someday that's got to come around. I don't know. It's the only way I've figured out to play her, really, because she's constantly just all over in timelines,
The main reason I asked this because my wife, when we first started really playing D&D, it was in 4th edition, and Paylor was the god in that one, and so she made a cleric of Paylor, and so like she's always been like, Paylor rocks. And I told her about Lathander and 5e, and she's like, no, not as cool. And so I remember when you all got into Greyhawk, I was telling her, I was just like, Evelyn is now in Greyhawk, which means there's a Lathander paladin in where Paylor is, and she's like, gonna get rough.
I think that Evelyn has also, I'm blanking on In DCA there was also like people were calling Lathander by a different name, and I think that
Yeah.
gosh, I'm blanking on the name. That like
'Cause-
the temple started reverting to. People are going to be in the chat like, ah! Anyway, but the point is that I think Evelyn, her theology is so flexible that she's like, oh, maybe people call Lathander something different here. Like, I call my friend Joseph Joe. You know, like I think that's very easy for her to be like, whatever, as long as we all believe in the light. You know.
I love that. So okay, so series 2, it's going on right now. Chat right now for you. I believe there's 3 episodes out that you can go watch. Not right now. We're this is going on. Watch this first, then go watch this. But how like you talked about like the in between times and everything, but how was like sitting at the table recording this? How did that go?
It was so nice because one thing, the live games are irreplaceable. They are so much fun. As an improv actor, there's nothing like those stage games. But one thing I do sometimes miss is like the emotional depth that continuity can bring, because there's so many months between each game, and each game has to be funny, and like self-contained and all that. So the fact that we were playing 2 games a day for 5 days allowed us to really get into some of these like relationships and like deep character, like what does this person want and what do they need and all of that stuff. And by the way, I've been trying to do AMAs on my Twitch channel after each episode is released.
Ooh.
So if you want, follow my Twitch channel. I'll try to signal when I'm going to do those, but like talking about them as they happen, because I don't want to spoil any of these amazing things. But there were some moments like where bonds between the characters started really appearing and conflicts between the characters started really appearing. Like a couple of us yelled at each other, like, and that never happens in Act Inc. So that was really cool. And then I think actually Austin has said this, but like he mentioned how Bobby has kind of been like the comic relief or like the guest for a long time. And I've kind of felt that way with Evelyn even, but he was like, this helped me see very clearly Bobby's actual place in the group and like what his actual like the desires of his heart are, and they make a lot of sense. And it, like, I'm getting chills talking about it. So and I think that it takes a few episodes for us to really get that deep into things, but by the mid-late episodes, like so good.
Yeah, Jerry was on here saying that like I think he said like 7 through 10 are some of his favorite D&D anything he's done.
Yeah,
and that just got me so hyped. I cannot wait to see that.
They are really special.
And one of the things that he did talk about it though that is still wild to me is like, you all recorded this 2 sessions a day over a week, but you did that before this last live game. How was that with like player knowledge versus character knowledge?
It was weird because usually we don't know where a session is going to end. So we knew eventually at the end of this session we get taken to this cavern. And it was really fun. One of my friends who had never played D&D before was at that game, and I was trying to explain how a DM moves a story along or doesn't. And I was like, remember when Chris was like, the wind pushes you toward the city? I was like, that's an example of where the DM was like, you need to move on, and I am moving you on. So that happened in that game, I think, because Chris was like, I need to get you to a certain place. So as a player, there was more awareness of like, I need to actually play the story, as opposed to like we in Act Inc. we're kind of like all the time. The lack of knowledge thing, I think I just have so much practice doing that with Evelyn particularly, because like I said, she drops in and out of one shots all the time. I rarely know where in a timeline she is, and she doesn't either, and that's kind of become part of her character, is like the optimism extends to like, I don't know why I'm here or when I am or what, but like the neutral good thing, like whatever is right at this time, I will do it. So I'm pretty good at segmenting in her brain, like she doesn't know that, so I don't know that. But it definitely was a fun exercise in like again, I think of D&D as collaborative storytelling. So knowing that extra piece of like, we need to let the DM get us to a certain point was a fun other exercise in that collaborative storytelling of like, I can wiggle to a point, but I need to let him guide us somewhere.
I don't remember which live show it was, but I remember Chris coming out and was like, and I'm your DM, herder of cats, or something like that. And I was just like, yeah, that's that tracks.
Yep.
God, yeah, the knowing that, like, because like I've done that once with a show of like, okay, we have to record episode 2 first and stuff like that, but like not on that scale. Like you did a whole series and it's like, now forget all of that.
Yeah.
And to know also that like, because Jerry said that like this series is bookended by those live shows, like how hard is it waiting for that next live show after this?
It's delicious, actually.
Oh, really?
I usually don't have this much to chew on between games, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah,
I was going to say...
Oh, go good.
Before we move on, one thing, again, in praise of Jim Darkmagic. We knew that he was going to be convinced to join us as like an actor in this movie that Omen's making. And I thought it was so artful how they managed that negotiation, because there were plenty of times where Jim was like, no, I don't want to do that. And I was like, oh no, like how is Omen going to convince him? And they did such a good job of making that real, even though we knew the outcome.
I didn't even think about that. Like that's one of the things, like the bits that go through it and everything like that. But that's main plot line. And that was started in there. Oh, wow. That, but
sorry to take us back, but
what I was gonna say though is that like I like that your answer there is like it is delicious waiting for this, because like because both Jerry and Jasmine were just like, it is killing me.
That's so interesting. I mean, I guess it does just make me like the hole that it will leave if we don't do another series is going to be gaping, because I like I said, I feel like I have a delicious feast between games. And if we have to go back to like we play 4 times a year, it's gonna feel so rough. See. So that I keep my whole thing that everyone's like, is there anything else you want to say about hacking? I keep being like, please just beg them to let us do this again. Like I am not a Penny Arcade employee. I have no power. I can just say like, please do this again. So like, if you like it, please tell them you like it and tell them to do it again, because I want to do it again. I don't.
It's one of those like, you definitely talk to him more than me, but I will be sure anytime I have Jerry on the show, I'm gonna be before like, Anna wants more.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Did you hear that everyone wants more? Did you hear that everyone thinks you should do it again?
Yeah, come on. That Kickstarter seemed totally looked easy. Like it was totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting later into the episode here, but I want to check in because it is my favorite jacket of all time. How's Cantrip doing?
Oh man, so Cantrip is great. If you haven't heard of it, it is fantasy and role-playing game inspired streetwear. It's a collaboration between myself, Nathan Sharp, aka Nate Wants Battle, and Aaron Gray. And we have been selling the same designs for quite some time, because it's all of our side gig. However, we have been slowly integrating more things that we're planning for line 2. We recently released a line of playtest items, we're calling them. So it's like, hey, we're putting these out in limited quantities. We're going to see what you think of them. Like, tell us if you like them, show us how well they sell or not, and then they may or may not be part of line 2. I meant to wear it today, but I didn't. There's a new design that we're calling the Dice Cream, and it's like an ice cream cone with a little die on top. And that's on a few different things. We have a new like crossbody bag and things. And then we're going to have, we're going to be at PAX Unplugged, and we're going to have a few more like new things that we're testing out, or things that might be like convention exclusive or things like that. So my message is like, definitely snatch those up if you can, because we may or may not offer them eventually. And then also like stay tuned, because these are pieces that we're trying to offer for line 2. So.
I mean, I'm definitely in that camp where I'm like, I'm glad I bought the thing when I did, because that Cantrip jacket is my favorite thing. Like
we get that feedback a lot, and people are like, can you get me one of those? And I'm like, no, I can't get one of those. We made them very for real limited. Like I have one. and that's all I have.
My cat went towards it once to like knead. I'm like, absolutely not. I
Do
don't
not
care how
touch.
adorable you are.
My
Don't need
favorite-
any other piece of clothing.
Yes. My favorite is that I get texts from Kate Welch and her husband Tyler Jacobson, and there is a war in their house about who owns the Cantrip jacket. And they will be like, Kate stole my jacket, and we just need to know when you're making more. And I'm sorry, guys. Like, I don't know how to tell you, like, you know, but so I appreciate that though, because I think at some point we will probably do like another colorway or like another spin on that jacket. So
see, I just need more bomber jackets. I found out they look good on me, and they're all I want now.
If you were to have another colorway or another type jacket, what would you have?
Oh man, like I don't know what, like red and blue are both like calling to me on that, just because like the thing that I do like about it is that from the front of it, it's very sleek. Like you don't, it's like, oh, he's just got a nice jacket on. And then you turn around and it's like, oh, like the amount of people at a restaurant when I'm sitting there that tap me on the shoulder and go like, that jacket is awesome because they walked up behind me. It's wild.
I love that. That makes me so happy.
So like, yeah, like, you know, something that's kind of like a little more flashy where you see someone, you're like, okay, I see him because he's in the red. And then you got, it's like white patterned on the back, like the black one has, like, that sounds awesome.
Okay, I like that. Good. I'll add, red and blue are good suggestions. I've been thinking about olive green. A lot of people really like olive. Ooh. Or I've been thinking about another black one, but different colored embroidery.
Oh, that could be fun.
Or a different design. Although like the polyhedral spell circle is just like,
yeah. Well,
see,
I see you said different color with the black one. I'm like, ooh, gold, because I still have a childhood fascination with black and gold since Power Rangers.
Kind of give it like the Baby Driver jacket vibes, or not Baby Driver. What is it?
Drive. Yeah.
The Drive.
This is like the words in there. I know it's one word.
This is good. This is a good consultation. Thank you. Thank you for this free consultation.
No problem. Happy to help out anytime. Well, I do want to ask one more thing about Cantrip because I can't remember if I asked it last time, and even if I did, I'm sure it's interesting. Like, how did that, not only like the idea for that come to be, like, but like, how did you just like go, like, you made clothes and you have a website and people buy from it? Like, that's wild.
I still ask myself this question, like, how did I make it happen? Because making line 2 happen feels so much harder than making line 1 happen. Because the polyhedral spell circle, it came to me. It was like visited upon me by a style angel. I don't know. And Nate and I were talking about like how we really like nerd clothing, but a lot of it is just like, here is a unisex t-shirt with a graphic printed on it, and the graphic is like a dragon or something, you know, like, and that doesn't really fit with our personal style. I'm a lot more like, I like things to be a little more subtle, and I like it to be like, you don't notice unless you know, and then it's like a cool conversation starter. So we just talked about that, and we basically came up with like a couple of the first ideas at his table, just like sketching. And then Aaron has always done all of the graphic design for, not all, but a lot of the graphic design for Nate's merch for his like music, his band. So we were like, hey, here's this idea. Can you translate this into a thing with the polyhedral spell circle? And then Aaron was like, I'm inspired. Here's a bouquet of D20s and here's like some other stuff. And so it really came out of like, we just want these clothes to exist really bad. So love that. And honestly, Cantrip is not like, it's not profitable, not yet. Because mostly it's like, we want these clothes, so we'll make them, and then hopefully some people will buy them so we can make more.
Yeah. No, I love that, because like I find that some of the best areas of inspiration of just like, I want this thing to exist. I think I have the ability to make it exist just so it can. Like, I mean, like, I've done like 6 podcasts. None of them have made a dime. Yeah. But it's their podcast that I'm like, there's a thing missing here that I want to hear, so I'm gonna make it. I love that's where that started for Cantrip. Yeah.
And it's, you know, through the pandemic and everything, everyone has had trouble, like supply issues and all this stuff. So It's timely to talk about this because I'm really trying to drive forward getting this next line out next year.
Heck yeah.
So thanks for the motivation.
Hey, I will be there as soon as they're available.
Good. We do have another limited edition collab in the works, like the Bomber kind of, where it'll be a limited run of like probably 200, maybe 250. I don't know when that's going to be, but like soon.
I'm
like
turning on
ready.
notifications for Cantrip right now.
I will say, like, if you're interested at all, just get on the mailing list because you always get the news first, and you get codes for percentages off usually whenever we release something. And usually it's like if there's only 200, the mailing list will find out hours before everyone else.
Heck yeah.
So
chat, I know that sounds like an ad, but like that was genuine information for me that I'm going to be doing right now. If you do it, awesome. Yeah. Please do.
There's even a shirt that has been, it's either convention exclusive or it has only been available to people on our mailing list. Like we'll only send links out to them. So we try to say thanks to people who are on our mailing list.
Okay. I'm signing up after this.
Yep.
Well, Anna, we're at the end of our time. Thank you so much for taking time today to talk with me about Evelyn and all this awesome stuff.
Thank you for having me. This is always such a pleasure to just like chat for an hour about stuff that I like.
That is my goal for this show, is just like have a fun 50 minutes, go about your day.
Thank you.
If people want to find you and what you do on the interwebs, where can they do so?
I have a website, annaprosser.com. That's where you can find a lot of my professional stuff. Like I said, I'm a full-time actor, presenter, all of that. So you can find my video and reel there. I also do education for either public speaking or interview, or sometimes companies want me to media train their people. Or
fun fact, I've been media trained by Anna Prosser, so like I can vouch. Fantastic course.
My favorite thing is when those relationships continue. So I'm so happy. Hey. And also, if you want to get in contact with me, that's the best way too, is to contact me through my website. But if you just want to keep in touch with my day-to-day, see cosplay photos or things like that, I'm most active on Instagram at Anna Prosser, but you can also find me on Facebook and sometimes X.
I've just been saying the dystopian social medias like that. It's the best way I can find.
Yes, you can find me in those unspeakable places at Anna Prosser as well, if you want to, but I rarely go there. Industry announcement people, don't try to Twitter DM me. I will not see it. I'm sorry, I won't.
That's fair. It used to, and it sucks because it's like that used to be a thing of like deals got made in those DMs, and now it's like don't even try.
Yep, sorry.
No.
It's not worth my mental health.
No, not at all. No. All right. Well, once again, Anna, thank you so much. Remember, you can pick up the Venture Casual skins with the Season Pass for Acquisitions Incorporated right now in game, and get all your Acquisitions Inc. people looking so cool. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Idle Insight. So until next week, take care of yourself.